and rising primarily, though you can look at this, you can listen to this for any placement you have that might be Gemini, or just because we all have all parts of all zodiac signs in all of us. So if the if there's something that just says I want to listen to that non-titled video for Gemini for November 2021, then do it because there's probably a message in it for you. Now, my Geminian friends, I it's funny in thinking and kind of settling myself into collective Gemini energy. There's like I laugh because there's no lack of coincidence in the fact that I feel like there are like two main split sides of Gemini energy, which is obviously not uncommon for Gemini. I feel like there's like one I want to say gaggle of you because like some Geminis really love to do lines and have straight lines, and others like are more into rows, and others just want to go in their own zigzaggy, wobbly, changeable path whenever they feel like it. It's some of the stuff that I love about Geminis, especially in evolved Gemini energy, which is what this split off feels like. So for those of you that are in more of the evolved Gemini energy, it feels like you're kind of like riding this cosmic wave sort of thing, almost like Grateful Dead style in a weird sort of way, to where like I don't know the phrase being a whole mood, a whole amusement park, a whole ride, a whole meal, like that's what it feels like is kind of this like was it I think Maverick says big happy changes sort of energy, like you're flowing, you're going, you're catching information, you're getting downloads. It's like fitting in a whole new way that like it fits in such a way that you're looking back on it all, seeing how you kind of knew all along that it would fit in this way, and yet had no conscious awareness that it could ever fit in this way. And that is just filling you with like both mirth and gratefulness and satisfaction and wonder and like just kind of this amazingness of all that your journey has been and is and will be. And for those of you on that, like, I mean, I feel like for you, as we enter into the Scorpio energy, especially with it somewhat stabilized with the a lot of the Capricorn energy going on with the other planets, like I feel like you're going to be in this place to where like everybody's being tested with the Scorpio energy, especially while Mercury is in Scorpio. Like it's secrets, lies, gossip, special people, pirates, potatoes, all sorts of stuff. Like it takes us into the depths of things, especially because Mercury is your ruler. And so, like, with that mercurial energy, it's kind of in the forefront of what we're thinking about, what we're doing. But it feels like, in this timeline of those of you who are just in this, like, I'm the whole amusement park kind of energy, are like it's there, and you probably have some like I want to say snaky people, but I don't like using snake in that way because snake to me has a lot more beneficial connotations than negative ones, but it does kind of feel like that, like kind of that like I don't know, like rats and mice, like they're there, and like it feels like you're kind of in this place to where you're like you're a part of life, and I recognize your beauty for that, even though I can acknowledge that you are a pain in my ass right now, or something kind of like that, like you know, and many of you may even, in kind of this newer sense of enlightenment, magic carpet ride sort of thing, are like going, you know what, like we are all shadow and we are all light. Maybe I will explore my shadows from a new graceful space that I would not have allowed myself to do before because I was either fully in my dark night of soul or fully in my white light radiance and not ever doing anything shadowy. Maybe I'll explore some of these like and that's one of my favorite things about evolved Gemini energy too. It's very I don't know if erudite is the appropriate word, but it's like love of learning, like philomath. I think philophiliac is another one. Like someone who just loves to learn for the sake of learning and like loves to experiment for the sake of experimenting. I will say though, because of the other side, the other parallel that I'm picking up to your energy, that like you might feel pulled in and out of stuff that is definitely Gemini third house sort of energy. It's like the kitchen table in a house. It's where the gossip typically or not kitchen, well, kitchen table, yeah, kitchen table, kitchen nook, dining room table, or for those of you that eat, would eat in the living room and stuff like that. Like it's typically where people gather and they talk about their days, or like if you're very piratey or you have a piratey family, like they'll complain about other people or they'll talk about things. So you might you might either feel yourself somewhat pulled towards this energy because it's a very Gemini sort of thing, especially with the Scorpio because it's Mercury and Scorpio energy. So it's like if you brought Scorpio to Scorpio, which is the bedroom. It's like we're lusty, we're carnal, we're primal, we can be romantic, we can do all of those things, and it's also the depths. Like it's the depths of your emotions, your intimacy, your fantasies, things like that. And if you take that energy, and it's like you changed out the dining room table for the bed, and like everybody's sitting around the bed, and the bed is one of those kinky beds that has like the cage underneath it, and maybe you got a few people like consensually in there, more than likely. Maybe there's a few people in there that aren't consensually. Maybe that's why you're at the table, because you're like, I don't normally bring myself over to have gossipy conversations like this anymore, but clearly there is something wrong here. Like there might be some situations where maybe, you are called not to lower your vibes, or to necessarily even rescue or be a judge of any particular situation, but there might be some situations that you are called towards because karmic rebalancing needs to occur where you actually get some rewards for honorable behavior, or like where maybe you're called to do something kind for someone that cannot necessarily do something for you, or maybe not right now, but you're in a place of like that benevolent, like it's okay, and like your reputation, that it's all illusions and stuff like that, so you're cool with that. Now, if you're in that space, just keep vibing. Like you'll think things will, you know how things work in the cycles and all that. Just observe, enjoy, learn for the sake of learning, love for the sake of loving. You know what I mean. Now, for those of you on the other parallel of this, I'm getting the sense that, so it's funny because it is very much two sides of a coin for a Gemini. So that first side is a lot more towards the light, kind of that, and this side is more dark night of soul stuff. Like I'm really picking up. There's a lot of Geminis right now, that, I mean, they were offered all the same multiple opportunities to be able to get readjusted onto a healing path, to release control, to release X's, to do all this stuff, and they've not been doing it. Now, this might be you, or this might be somebody that you're observing. It does not necessarily mean that they are a Gemini Sun, Moon, or Rising. Like you could be the Gemini Sun, Moon, or Rising, and maybe this is somebody else that is receiving this. Though I do have a sense that there are a lot of Gemini Sun, Moon, and Risings who have really like it's. I want to say part of it is Dark Night of Soul energy, but it actually feels like what it is it's leading you into your Dark Night of Soul energy. Like you were in a very like egoic place. And ego, especially if we've been conditioned, and traumatized a lot early on, can make us believe that it is intuition, or that it is our heart, or that it is our mind. But you can usually tell the difference because in that state, ego will often tell us only scary things. Like then, that nice person over there is fake. That person over there is a threat. That person over there is going to do this. Or if I'm not constantly micromanaging every single thing or keeping an eye on every single thing, then it's going to fall apart, or it's going to go badly, or I'm going to accidentally screw it up like I always do. Like that fits in the kind of the unevolved, or maybe the in the process of evolving Gemini energy. And because it's Gemini energy, which can kind of be like an octopus in some ways, like there's a lot of tendrils and tentacles and things like that. When you're in evolved energy, you can do a lot of things that a lot of people can't comprehend. Like it's almost like a natural energy of the part of neurodivergence with like ADHD, to where you can do like you can multitask better than a lot of people can, and especially socially. But when you're in unevolved energy, what you often see is like this attempt to micromanage or control the way people think or steer things, which is, these are common for most air signs in unevolved energy. And it's like, even when you succeed, even when you the narrative goes in the way that you want it to, you end up self-sabotaging it yourself. And a lot of that starts in the mind, like if you're in the place to where you're trying to say rush into marriage, or get somebody to help you because your life's not been going well, or you're trying to rush out of a relationship or anything like that, like get so jumpy and impulsive because you are afraid. And so the thing you start right after that, hoping that that will be the thing that will make you feel better, is started in the energy that you left the old thing in. And so that momentum then carries forward. And because you don't give yourself time to heal, whether it's a relationship or a job or anything like that, or starting a new family, like any of that stuff, when you don't give yourself the time and the space to really process things and figure out who you are without other people either controlling you or that you're trying to control, then you're constantly in your own shadow, in your own Gemini shadow, of this like imposter syndrome thing, where you're constantly trying to be a different version of yourself for each person, so that you can run from the shadow of feeling like no one would ever like the real you, who is probably already very changeable as is, and already takes a lot of flack from the rest of the signs, because you do change a lot. You do, and Cancer can kind of relate to a certain degree, but Gemini definitely changes around a lot. Like Geminis are fairly, especially Gemini Sun, you probably have a lot of travel or a lot of family changes or chaos and things like that in your life theme. And so, you're constantly being told that you need to be one person, but you feel like multiple people because you kind of are multiple people, at least in that energy. Your energy is meant to be bigger. Your energy is meant to be multiple. Your energy is meant to be dual. And there are many, many texts and spiritual paths that absolutely honor that. Like, absolutely honor that. Like, it really sucks that the mainstream does not honor that right now. Though, because of that, depending on your particular upbringing and how you got to where you are now, you have likely been quite piratey. At least that's what I'm picking up in this energy here, is that, you've not been taking care of yourself. You've not been really taking care of the people around you. Like, you've kind of been like you've been splitting the pole, you've been splitting your energy. Like, you're trying to give so much of yourself to so many different people so that you always feel like you're needed and that they need you, and that you might have even been willing to go to various different extremes to like trap people in with you, or you've had other people do that to you, so then you did that to other people so that at least you weren't trapped alone. Like, it gets really out of hand really quickly. And it's likely, if you're going through this energy, that you actually probably asked for healing. And you probably had others out there who were also asking for your healing. Those people that like actually genuinely care about you, but that you've not been seeing or giving your time and attention to, because you've been more worried about getting the affections and affirmations from the people who are either too, they don't have the time and attention to give themselves, or they're not giving themselves time and attention, just like you're not, so they don't have anything to give to you. But there are people who have been trying to give to you, or at least trying not to take from you. And when your focus gets more stuck on the people who you feel like are a threat to your happiness, or you focus on the people who make you feel more insecure, you manifest more of that energy. And I know I know there's plenty of you even that have either gotten into dark magic, or maybe you fell into some sort of scams with somebody doing some sort of love magic and stuff like that. And others of you have been working really hard to make yourselves look better than others, and others look lesser than you because you were afraid that you were not good enough on your own. And you might be feeling and facing some of the karma of that, like especially if you ended up either intentionally or accidentally binding any other people to you. Because even if it seemed like, or even banishing, like with banishing, actually, the part of the reason that you should not get into banishing is because it binds people to you. The people that you are banishing, they only remain in that banishment so long as your energy is contributing to the banishment energy. So even though it might keep them away from you, it keeps them bound to you also. And the same thing with binding. Like, you could try to bind a person to you, but the problem with that is that they're a whole person, and they have like their own universe of different connections all through the world, which means you bind all of the people that they either voluntarily or on a soul level, or maybe, I don't know, maybe through obligation, are bound to. You bind yourself to them too, even if what you were trying to do was to create like an exclusive thing. Like, and part of the reason that it happens that way is because when we are doing things like bindings and banishings and stuff like that, even if it's more in a metaphorical sense of like talking shit about somebody to try to make them look worse than they are so that they won't be so appealing or they won't feel like such a threat to us. Like that's still along the same lines of doing that same sort of magic, right? Or trying to fabricate evidence on them, or allowing your insecurities to cause different situations that were not necessary. Like when you get into that, the problem is, no matter, like, even if you were right that said person was creating problems in your life or anything like that, you just did a thing to where you just increased their connection to you. You just increased the power that you give to them because you did that stuff out of fear, greed, and insecurity, which are some of the strongest energies. Like the only things that are stronger is like gratitude, joy, kindness, love. And when you get into doing that stuff, then what happens is you might, even if you were right that you could have had the promotions in the job or the really nice family situation, relationship, or the status or things like that, if said other person either didn't exist or didn't exist in your stories or whatever things, your life may have been better without them. But because you went for the control aspect in that fear space, you actually empowered them. You built them up. You put them in those spaces. And the thing is, subconsciously, there's a reason for that. Like your 5D self would only allow that sort of thing to happen for your growth and likely for theirs. Like, so if you're in this position, you got to recognize that one, anybody that you put in a position to be kind of a stepping stone or like a thrown brick in your path, anything like that, the way that energy works is that even if it's not them directly, there is always going to be somebody within your story who is going to come into your life and do to you what you did to them, because it's there for learning. It's not a punishment, but it's there for understanding that, especially if you've been in unevolved Gemini energy where you've been feeling you never get a break in your life, or you never get you never get good chances, or people just don't like you. Like being in that victim consciousness calls more of that to you, and the more you call that to you, it's kind of like from the movie the Polar Bear King. Like too much evil destroys evil, and so it's the same as like too much shadow. It's just going to create more and more shadow. You also don't want too much light. So I know a lot of Geminis and unevolved energy that like in their minds and like when it's just you one on one with them, they're nasty thoughts. They're very bitter. Like, it's a lot of gossiping, it's a lot of judgments, a lot of stuff like that. But then, like, you see that same Gemini faced with the person that they were just telling you that they, like, have nothing but piss and vinegar for, they'll be totally polite and nice and be like, oh, yeah, oh, that's great. Come on in, have some tea. Like, don't be like that. Don't be like that, because that is going to be the sort of way that all the people that you thought you could trust were actually treating you. Because it's not like karma is a bigger, more complex thing than most people think about. This is only one small aspect of it, but it's the whole, there's always an equal but opposite reaction in the rest of the universe through your energy. And so that, in a way, becomes a form of karma, to where anybody that you were treating like that, you had at least as many people on your end who were treating you in just the same way, being like pleasant to your face, but also either being envious of you or trying to sabotage things, or like having nothing but piss and vinegar going around. And so it's very likely that at whatever point in time that you were going to try to protect your situation or protect your territory or try to keep your crumbling sandcastles from falling down, like that you had other people who were working against you in the way that you were working against other people. And it feels like with the Scorpio energy Gemini's on this timeline, that the karma is coming in, the Saturn is bringing in stuff to collect. It's going to last a little while too, because there's a lot of extra Saturn energy going on up past January. So, like, for those of you that I'm picking up on this, like, have grace with yourself, because depending on how far down you let yourself go into those shadowy, egoic, insecure feelings and experiences will really determine how far you're going to experience this energy. And for some of you, if you really, or if you know someone in this Gemini energy and they've really been in a victim mindset for a lot of times in their life, like, they're probably not going to recognize, one, that they called in this experience for their own soul's growth, and two, they're not going to recognize the gift in it. And it's very likely that it might, especially unevolved Gemini energy can very much fit the whole crazy making and Jekyll and Hyde energy. So if they've been in that energy, if you've been in that energy and it's been going back and forth, and like you're now feeling that other people are doing that sort of stuff to you or to someone that like, just have faith that it's going to even out, it's going to equal out, that your best bet and your best investment of your time and effort is one, loving yourself, because when you have that self-love, you're not going to need to go and seek control and trying to manipulate everything in order to keep either what wasn't yours in the first place, or that was only meant to be temporary, or things that don't make you happy. Like, those things can flow in and out. You are a beautiful being, no matter what you have done in the past, no matter what ways you've acted, no matter what way you think about it right now. Like, you are a beautiful being, and good things are coming to you. And the more you can get your energy into a space of thinking about, how do I want to feel about myself in like 5 years, in like 10 years? How do I want to look back and feel like I handled this? Like, get out of the now moment of like, oh my gosh, everything's falling apart right now. In fact, if everything feels like it's falling apart right now, your best bet is to get into a more long-term place, and not like jump around right now, especially in the energy that we have with Mercury and Scorpio. Like, that is going to add fuel to the fire. It's going to make things boil over. And that's kind of the sense that I get to. There are in the second timeline, there are a couple of different split offs. Some of you in this energy will really learn to stand in your light and own your shadows and make up for things that you never would have faced in the past before. And others of you, even if you totally understand exactly what I'm saying intellectually, and especially those that don't get a chance to listen to messages like this, like, you're still going to go through the motions of kind of like, the image in my mind is like Yellowstone National Park, to where there's a whole bunch of geysers going off. It's kind of like old, like around Old Faithful and stuff. Like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. You're gonna blow up. You're going to make things worse. It's all going to fall apart until you're by yourself, because that's where you need to learn. That's where you can learn the most self love. Geminis in particular often go through various life experiences where they end up feeling kind of isolated, but it's not meant to be a punishment. It's because Gemini is so naturally social, and it like becomes a codependent need, that you kind of put yourself in your own ego bind, to where you end up alone, so that you can learn to love yourself, so you can go back into the world and have a much better social experience, which is where you really want to focus on. No matter, whether you have enough self-discipline to be able to shift energies right now, or whether you don't, just remember, this is happening for you, not to you. All right, my Geminian beautiful souls, I will see you in the next video.